the one thing about cutting the drawer fronts out of one piece like this is when I separate this for each drawer front, the grain will follow all the way down through all the drawers, and it'll match up really nicely. Makes a real nice look. Okay, so I went ahead and I separated, I cut 3 drawer fronts, and instead of actually cutting the lines in it with the router, I just use a pencil to trace in where, if I wanted to go this route, if I wanted to edge in that those lines to make it look like a frame and panel design, or the opposite would be if I just wanted it to be a flat, no profile, no nothing. I do have drawer pulls that'll go in the middle of the drawer, but so that's what I am toying with the thoughts, and right now I'm leaning towards going ahead and putting that extra detail in there. And then the other thing that I need to do is get my planer out and take it down a little bit on the back side so I can recess it just a little bit and see how that looks. So now I've got my drawer fronts cut out, and you can see I still got the lines on there. Those will come off. But what I'm working on now is I'm doing the edge banding, and to show you how that works, what I'm using is this is one of the cut pieces of edge band. It's just veneer, and it has a heat-sensitive glue on the back. This is what it is. It's made by Bandit. It's just veneer edging. So to apply this edge banding, this is where you might be taking your life into your own hands. And here's why. Because depending on your marital status, you need one of these. And so I went and got my wife's iron. Yes, the one that she uses for clothing. And so I'm going to be very, very careful. And we just won't tell her. So all I'm doing is I've got pre-cut size here for the edge of the drawer. And it actually overlaps just a little bit. So I'm just going to heat it up. And as it heats up, that glue will start to kind of ooze out on the edges. So here's a little precaution. I can just take a piece of paper and put it over there so that hopefully we don't get any glue on the iron, or I'd be dead meat. You can imagine. So I'm just going to get that nice and hot, nice even pressure. It says to use a little roller. You can buy a little roller, but I have not done that. It might give a little bit extra smooth edge, but as that cools down, it'll stay on there and give a nice durable, nice looking, clean edge. So as you can see, that there's my front. I've already did this edge here, and what I'll do now is I'll trim away this excess with a knife, and then sand the edge with my sander, and that'll give it a real nice look. You can buy a little veneer corner trim cutter. It's like $8 at the hardware store. I'm cheap, and so I didn't buy that. I'll just trim it off and then sand it down, and should look real good. So you can see how that's nice and trimmed down. Front looks good. I still got to finish trimming off the back edge, but you can see how that makes a real nice, clean drawer front. The other thing to remember is you don't have to edge band all three sides. If the drawer front, you're never going to see the bottom side, so I'm not going to edge band that one. I'll see the top and I'll see the two edges, and that's good enough for me. Okay, I've learned a couple of things as I have been edge banding all of my drawer fronts. Number one, this is the first one that I did, and it looks fine. All of the other ones, I edge banded the sides first, but the first one that I did the top edge first, and it's not that big of a deal. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see the end grain. Get over here. You can see the end grain of the edge band, because I did the top first, and the side went up and it goes over the top, or over the edge of the veneer on that side. And this is one that I did, one of the later ones that I did, and you can see the difference. How this one you can see the end grain from the top. This one you cannot, because this one I did the side first and veneered the top edge over the top of it. It's just one of those little details. So I did one this way, and all the rest of them are that way. The other thing I learned, I mentioned that $8 or however much it was veneer trimmer. I think next time I will buy one of those. All of the adhesive that comes, the excess adhesive, it just fills up the sanding discs and the sandpaper, and a little bit of a pain. It's not that big of a deal, but it'll clean off the wood just fine. But I think it would make it go a little bit faster and just be a little bit neater to have one of those little veneer trimmers. So I'll do that next time. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to cut the detail in the drawer fronts. And on the side of my table saw, I've got a homemade router table, but the router table base that sets in the surface, it's made of like a masonite material, so it's not strong enough. So it has a little bit of a bow to it. So instead of relying on that, I'm just using some of my 3/4 plywood, and I installed a thin piece over here against the fence, and then a piece here that I can rest my material on and slide it, and it's a much flatter surface. So I'll get a much more consistent look for what I'm trying to do. So what I've done, and you can see my pencil marks here on the fence, that is basically it's 1 3/4 from the center, and I've installed a 1/2 inch V-groove bit in my router, and so when I run my material through, it's just going to give me a nice little score mark. It actually goes just through the veneer, and it'll give a nice detail. So the top of the drawer, I'm going to run it all the way through, and then for these little sections right here, now remember, we're kind of trying to give that frame and panel look. So to achieve that without running the router all the way through, that's what I'm using these marks for. So I will go right about in the middle, and I'll set the piece down, and I'll back it up to just prior to the line, and then I'll go this way to just prior to the line and pick it up, and that's the look that I'm after. We'll give it a shot. So I have a finished drawer front here. All the reveal lines cut. They're stained. They're also lacquered. So it's all, you know, finished on 3 sides, but not the bottom, like I mentioned, because you'll never see the bottom. The other thing that I wanted to do is go ahead and I'm going to put pulls on these drawers, because if it fits inside the frame like that, there's nothing to grab. So you pretty much need to. So I found these little egg-shaped pulls that I really like. It's time to go ahead and install the drawers, or the drawer fronts. I've already got 2 of them installed. So the question is, how in the world do I attach these drawer fronts to the existing drawer boxes? And they had detachable face plates in the first place, so there's already holes in the drawer body. The other thing is I'm using all the existing slides, which aren't the greatest. I'd much rather have a nice ball bearing slide, but again, I'm trying to do this inexpensively, so I left the originals there, and there is a little bit of, you know, play in that type of slide. So I'm leaving a little bit more gap around the edges for that. I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch. So I don't know how other people would do this, but here's how I'm doing it. I've got some scrap material that's about 1/8 of an inch thick that I'll just set it on the bottom there. I'm going to set it on top of that scrap material. I'll line it up over here so that my gap is consistent. And then I'm just going to press it in place. I guess it's not coming in contact with the tape right now. So let me pull out a little bit on the drawer, and that should stick. Hold it in place long enough for me to put a couple of screws in, which I left across the room here. Let's see how this works. So try to hold it still so it doesn't move. Go ahead and take that out. Looks like everything is still straight. And for the most part, it's off just a little bit. I'm going to adjust that.